In Martha Wells' newest novel, Platform Decay, the 8th entry in the fan-favorite Murderbot series, Murderbot is on yet another mission, and all it wants is to watch the entertainment feeds. In this story, Martha Wells adds to the world building and introduces some human children to the mix. But is it enough to justify another Murderbot book? Or is Martha running out of ideas? We'll go over this and more in today's review. Platform Decay, released on May 5th of 2026. This is Martha Wells' newest book and another entry into the Murderbot series that we've all come to love. And in this story, Murderbot takes us on a traveling road trip from hell across a gigantic planetary torus. So this book is much the same as the ones that have come before it. So if you've read this far into the series, you kind of know what you're going to get. Martha Wells has created this amazing character in the form of this cyborg sec unit bot, and she continues to grow and develop the character into something resembling a normal human. Though as Murderbot grows to be less socially awkward, unfortunately that does mean that this story loses some of its appeal. Platform Decay in particular seems to be missing something, and this story I didn't think was quite as engaging or amusing as the previous entries. The novel begins with Murderbot, and recently liberated and kind of a friend to Murderbot, the sec unit known as 3, breaking into a gigantic planetary torus, which is essentially this huge artificial structure built all the way around an entire planet, which I thought was really quite interesting. This mega structure that Martha Wells came up with, it's essentially, I kind of saw it as a donut around a planet, and the planet was a donut hole. And the planet itself, I kind of gathered, though, she didn't really add any details about the planet, but it kind of seemed like maybe it was like uninhabited and rocky, and it's been gouged out and mined, and all the resources extracted from it to build this planetary torus around it. That it's kind of like just a giant habitat in outer space, that the inside of course is filled with all sorts of people and different civilizations living within it. So that was a really great piece of world building that Martha Wells did add to this book that I really enjoyed in particular. So in this story, Murderbot is on a mission to rescue Dr. Mince's family, who are hiding in a safe house on this planetary torus before the kind of evil, bearish Estranza Corporation can find them and get to them first. So we get this story where Murderbot has to kind of traverse through this giant torus. And yeah, the book is kind of described by Martha as a road trip from hell. So he's going through each zone of this giant torus. And this is another aspect that really added to the enjoyment of this book, is that each zone kind of has a different culture, a different set of laws, a different possible corporation controlling it, or maybe it's free from corporate control. But like every zone, each one looks different. It has a different also environment. Like one of them's kind of based around like a jungle theme, and then another one's very artificial and desert-like, and all these different forms of culture and economy going on inside each zone as well. So that of course was really interesting to read. Of course, Martha Wells doesn't really go deep into her world building. This is Murderbot is definitely a story about the character of Murderbot rather than the world it's living in. But I did really like that Martha added that aspect to this book. And unfortunately, while the plot does have kind of an interesting setup here at the beginning, it takes you, as soon as you start reading, it takes you right into the action. We don't really get explained what Murderbot's doing or why, but he's trying to break into this torus with 3, with the other sec unit, and it explains more as the story goes along. But once Murderbot gets to this safe house to rescue Dr. Mince's family, the story becomes kind of a tedious escort mission, because it has to escort this family out of this tourist structure while at the same time trying to hide and run from the corporation that is after them. So it's kind of just like we travel from point A to point B to point C to point D and so on until they, may or may not escape from the tourists. And I did think, some of the things that Murderbot has to come up with, the strategies and plans, the tactics to escape from this group of corporate security that they're running from. So that did make it a little more interesting, because you can't really do the same thing every time to try to escape from them. They have to try new things and different ideas to get around the security and that kind of thing. So that was kind of interesting, but we don't get the typical witty and awkward dialogue that we often get in Murderbot stories. And, I think one of the things that people love most about Murderbot is how socially awkward and kind of amusing he is around other people. And especially when it comes to the dialogue he has with others. And this, I think this is probably probably the story with the least amount of dialogue in it, I feel like. And so I know a lot of fans love Art, the transport ship. Art is not really in this story, so there's no interaction there. There is the other Sec Unit 3, but 3 kind of goes off screen basically after the first part, after they break into the Taurus. We really don't see 3 again for most of the story, so there's none of that interesting dialogue going on. And then in addition to that, Murderbot is kind of becoming more of a normal person. He's learning how to properly behave like a person. Of course, he's growing as a character, but that also means that he's maybe a little bit less interesting as a character too. So, but of course, it's kind of a trade-off. He does need to grow as a character, but if he grows to be a normal human, how do you keep him to be an entertaining and amusing character? So that's kind of a difficult trade-off, difficult balance that I think Martha needs to find there. And so the story creates a situation where Murderbot needs to rescue these human children. And so far in the series, he's had very little interaction with children. But so it sets up, what could be a very awkward situation. But we actually see very little interaction between Murderbot and the children. The interactions we do get are very endearing, but they're also very dry and without the socially awkward musings we get from Murderbot. In fact, most of the story, Murderbot is just angry at the situation he's in and that he doesn't really want to be there. So instead of awkwardness, we get anger from Murderbot. I don't think that it was quite as compelling for me. So this novel does kind of feel like it's missing what makes Murderbot special. The characters that make the Murderbot stories more fun are missing. Like I said, Art and the other Sec Unit 3. Most of the main core of Dr. Mintz's family are missing from this. We do get near the end of this book in the final chapter. Murderbot and 3 kind of meet up again, and we get that typical Murderbot spark of, fun and amusing interactions and things like that. But kind of saving that till the end made the rest of the novel feel a little bit uninspired. And Murderbot also does have this new, I guess you'd call it a feature that's been, I don't know if you'd call it programmed or installed in him, called an emotion check. It's kind of like a therapy program built into him. So Murderbot will occasionally do an emotion check, and it will kind of tell him how he's feeling and kind of give him a moment to reflect on what's going on. So that was kind of interesting, but most of the time it was just Murderbot's angry. It wasn't really much more sophisticated than that. So I don't want it to seem like that I didn't enjoy this book. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't quite as good as the rest of the books in the series. Murderbot is, of course, a very special character for many readers, including myself. Its journey from being a programmed Sec Unit to breaking free of its programming and becoming a valuable member of a found family, although an extremely awkward member at that, and then to becoming a somewhat normal human being has been incredible to be a part of, and I've really enjoyed the entire series thus far. So overall here, there were things that I really liked about Platform Decay, and I still enjoy the character of Murderbot. So I am going to give this story a 3 out of 5 stars. A 3-star rating for me does mean that I liked the book. In this book, we do get little snippets of what makes Murderbot the entertaining stories that have made them popular. But one also has to wonder if Martha Wells is maybe losing her motivation for the series. She has stated that the next installment, so the next book, is going to be the final Murderbot book. So it could be that she herself realizes that she's running out of ideas as well. So maybe she thinks it's time to end the series. And I will add a link below in the description to that Martha Wells interview over on Reactor Magazine. But yeah, I just wonder if maybe she's kind of losing the inspiration for the character. Maybe she's felt like she's told all the stories that she can tell with Murderbot, and of course his growth into basically a normal character means his story is over. So as of now, she is planning to just write one more book, which would be the 9th and final book in the series, and then maybe she'll take a break, or maybe that'll be the end of it. But I think if you've made it this far into the series, if you already enjoy Murderbot, I do recommend continuing to read this one. You'll find a lot of things that you like about it. Maybe some of it will be a little bit disappointing, but I think overall it was a good novel, and I enjoyed it too, and I will be eagerly awaiting the 9th book in the series. Alright, so that's all I have to say for this one. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of Platform Decay? Have you read it yet? Are you a fan of the Murderbot series? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.